Hey, good morning, Rob. Good morning, all. Thanks for being with us today. It's May 10th on the Common Good podcast, and Tuesday, May 10th. That makes it a politics conversation today, and super excited to be talking with Hillary Scholten, who's running for Congress in Michigan. So call your Michigan friends, tell them to, head on over here and to meet the candidate that's going to be next Congresswoman from Grand Rapids area. Hey, Rob, weather in Minneapolis, our little weather report. 75, light winds, lovely day. We're just gloriously pleased around here. How are things looking there in Arkansas?
Doug, do you want to guess the number on my car thermometer yesterday? I got in my car yesterday afternoon. Guess the number.
96.
Oh, so close. It was 95. And I thought, seriously. And I thought, we're into it already. And my wife kind of has a rule that has frustrated my children for a number of years, and that is we try not to turn on the air conditioning until June. And so so it's a little warm already here in Arkansas.
Those are the ingrained behaviors of someone who grew up in the Midwest. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Like you don't need the air conditioner on before June. There's so many parents have yelled that at their children.
Yeah. So, that's one of those things. And for those who might be wondering, the New York Times article about a pastor from Arkansas in the midst of in the schism in evangelicalism. It's not me. I was not in the New York Times today.
Well, let's hunt that person down. Maybe we can have them on the podcast.
Yeah, actually from Fort Smith, which is not too far from where I am here, just outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Well, Rob, one of the things that we like to do around here is call people, voters especially, to consider the common good, to make it their voting criteria, to organize themselves not around a religious identity, even a nationalist identity, maybe let their politics not drive their economic desires only, but to also consider what would be good for all of us. I'm fond of this little phrase in politics. It's been big around Minnesota that we all do better when we all do better. And that's got this common good sort of ring to it. And we've been saying that to voters for a long time and helping candidates connect with those voters. And I'm also really excited about this new project that we've launched today, that we're launching today, which we're going to talk with Hillary about because she's one of these people, Hillary Scholten. But this project that we have going about candidates caring about the common good. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, Doug. We have been asking voters to use the common good as their voting criteria. We've been doing that for several years now. One of the things that we're now doing is also asking candidates for office to use the common good as their governing criteria. That, hey, just like we ask voters not to be selfish when they're in the voting booth, we're asking candidates, hey, don't be selfish when it comes to leading and governing, and think about what is in the best interest of everybody. And so we have asked candidates around the country to become a candidate for common good. And we are launching that today with 21 candidates across the country, up and down the ballot, from Senate to governor to state legislative candidates. And we've got 21 really amazing candidates that have committed themselves to doing this. And we'll talk more about this, I think, when we're done talking to Hillary. But one of these 21 candidates, as we launch Candidates for Common Good today, is Hillary Scholten, who is running in Michigan's 3rd congressional district. It's the Grand Rapids area. And Hillary is joining us today to talk about her campaign. Hillary, good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, Hillary, this is a big deal for us. We've been a Hillary Scholten fan for a long time, and so to have you on the podcast, really, so it's a super treat. Hey, so you're in West Michigan. We have spent a lot of time in West Michigan. In fact, we feel like West Michigan is this little center of a kind of American experience. It actually has a very diverse immigrant population. East
Yep.
African, and people from other from Central American, South American countries. But it also has this rich Dutch history to it, right? I used to joke every time you go to Grand Rapids, get ready to pay your own bill because we all go Dutch when we're there. And that has a certain religious tone to it and a particular evangelical tone. In fact, a lot of people might be familiar with the phrase Grand Rapids, Michigan, if they've been around certain kinds of evangelical Christianity, because a book that they bought may have been published there, a church that they've heard of, somebody was trained at a seminary, went to a college there. It's sort of the Silicon Valley, what Silicon Valley is to technology, or Nashville is to music. There's a way that Grand Rapids is to this certain expression of evangelical Christianity, and so we've spent a lot of time there because those are the kind of voters that we want to see move, and we think it's a bit of a bellwether to show what could work there, could work in other places. For you as a candidate, that context has certainly created a particular kind of tone because you're a Democrat, and many times these people that I'm referring to, people from the community that I've was raised in the Christian faith with, they haven't wanted to vote for Democrats or even, trust a Democrat or something. Can you tell us a little bit about that whole context and your getting into politics and then choosing to work in the Obama administration as a lawyer in the Justice Department and some of the other things that you were doing and what that's been like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it right on the head. That is the West Michigan experience for sure. I never thought that I would be running as a Democrat for U.S. Congress. I didn't have political aspirations growing up. My family was not overly political. I think the political experience was also a cultural experience. The sort of Republican, compassionate conservatism was woven into the fabric of our Christianity, of our social, our cultural experiences. I didn't know a Democrat until I was a senior in high school growing up, born and raised in conservative, Republican leaning CRC. You're absolutely right. The Christian Reformed Church, headquartered here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And it had just always been that this Republican Party, it's just what we did. It was an expression of our faith. It was an expression of our, our culture, our social experience. And, I think for me, growing up, the two things happened. One, coming to my own understanding of how my faith expressed itself in public life. And also, as I see and hear from people around me every single day, I didn't leave the Republican Party. The Republican Party left me. The Republican Party of today is not your grandfather's Republican Party. And we see people continually moving away from that. Born and raised here, my mom was a Grand Rapids public school teacher. My dad was our local sports reporter. Faith and service were what we did every single day, giving back to our community. Their life inspired me to want to give back to my community as well. I became a social worker first, worked on issues of housing and homelessness, and then eventually became an attorney. Worked in the Department of Justice during the Obama administration, alongside Republicans and Democrats. I was not a political appointee. And this was my dream job. I thought I would be, a DOJ attorney for the rest of my life. And then something changed really significantly in 2016 when Trump was elected and Sessions took over. And, I thought I'm going to try as much as I can to do good from the inside. And it just became clear more and more initially, especially when the travel ban, the 7-country travel ban was initiated. And I just realized, I cannot continue to do this work and uphold my oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, my moral and ethical obligations as an attorney, and my own faith convictions as a Christian. So I took a stand and I left this career that I had worked so hard to build. And I moved back home to West Michigan and I took up a job at a legal aid organization, protecting and defending immigrants who were experiencing some of the worst of the administration's attacks. Individuals who were targeted because of their country of origin, the color of their skin, the way they spoke, people who were women who experienced sexual harassment in the workplace and were, threatened with a new kind of emboldened threat with deportation if they reported the harassment that they were experiencing. Worked heavily on the family separation crisis. Represented a decorated U.S. citizen Marine veteran who was unlawfully detained just because of broken English and the color of his skin. Doing this work, I realized, these are the types of policies that people in my community find so morally repugnant. There was such a strong outcry from the people that, I grew up with, that I was raised with, that, were saying, enough, this does not speak for me. And I knew that people in my community needed a new voice. And I raised my hand to run. I was the Democratic nominee in 2020. We had one of the highest performing races, not only in the region ever in history, but in the 2020 congressional cycle for challenger races. Unfortunately, gerrymandering had our district in such a way that even despite a strong message and a strong candidate, we were unable to win. But this year, Michigan's has a new district thanks to an independent commission that drew the lines for the very first time. And we find ourselves not in a district that Trump won by 10 points, but actually in a district that Joe Biden won by 9 points. So it's it's being targeted nationally by the national groups as one of the races that we can win. By the Democratic Party, but I also say, by the Common Good Party, by folks who are really out there to ensure, that folks can earn a living wage, put food on their table, not be gouged by big pharmaceutical companies just for providing necessary insulin for their children. So I'm really honored to be in a position to run again and continue to, to give a voice to so many who are ready for a new kind of leader here in West Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Hillary, Kent County, where that's in your district, it's where Grand Rapids is, went for Joe Biden for the first time in 30 years that county went for a Democrat. Given that it is such a, as Doug was describing, such a hotbed of evangelicalism, do you think that was a one-time rejection of Donald Trump, or is there some kind of shift that's happening? And how do you build on that? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think there was very clearly a repudiation of Trump from a certain segment of of the group. However, this is the district that was represented by Congressman Justin Amash for 10 years, for a decade, and in addition to him being someone who held himself out as a strong, principled individual who famously left the Republican Party. I often joke he was like the Pied Piper, drawing people out of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And they're not likely to go back, especially when, they have a candidate who, is willing to stand up and say, there's a different way to do this. I often talk about, my faith publicly on the campaign trail. And I say, it's not because I think there is one specific way to be a Christian. Jesus was not a Republican or a Democrat. And I personally believe that discerning Christians can choose for themselves, their political affiliations. But I talk about my faith so that people will see there is a different way to do this. You can't be a Christian and a Democrat. You can be a person who, stands up for, increased access to Medicare and Medicaid, who says, we believe in capping insulin prices. You can be Christian and pro LGBTQ. And it's a message that resonates with so many. I mean,
Yeah.
when I say this, I see people bringing tissues to their eyes because it has been such a drought here for people who say, I think that too. And I've never had someone,
Yeah.
publicly espouse those values. And I think it's just been a cultural shift that's been a long time coming. And it's about more than just one man. It's about, a party that continues to, stand up for things that are not in the common good, squashing voting rights, taking away healthcare, taking away women's, economic and reproductive freedom.
Yep.
Yeah. Hillary, you're a unique candidate in a couple of ways. Your own faith experience in growing up there in West Michigan, also your expertise in immigration law, and what a lot of people maybe have sensed but haven't really put a sharp point on is just how crucial an anti-immigration narrative has been in the one portion of the Republican Party that really showed itself in 2007, 6, 7, and 8 when Bush was trying to push for comprehensive immigration reforms. People have even forgotten that Marco Rubio was in the little group of 8 there in Florida, right? And they were all deeply embedded in making a change. And then the Republican Party's most extreme elements moved against them. And then Donald Trump seized on that. And it really is the animating narrative that, and frankly, a lot of Democrats don't want to talk about immigration either. We're doing some work on immigration because we know that there's certain voters who feel like immigration is different than the other political issues and it shouldn't be captured by one party or the other. So you as somebody who's worked, in immigration law and the Justice Department side, I'm interested in your thoughts about that and what it feels like to be contemplating what your life is going to be like when you've moved from being a lawyer who approaches the law as a lawyer does to being a lawmaker who approaches the law as someone who makes the laws and has to represent them, and how you're thinking about that, both sort of on that larger, big political movement issue of immigration, but also for you thinking about being a lawmaker now.
Yeah. I think immigration is one of these areas where, you're absolutely right. I think, the Democratic side is so afraid to touch it because the right has learned how to, unfortunately weaponize it towards a certain segment of the population that is really motivated by the fear mongering. And I think that we just need to not be afraid to lean back in to talking about immigration. There is overwhelmingly the majority of Americans want a smart, comprehensive immigration reform that will, bring our borders back under control, that will bring humanity back to our immigration process, and that will revamp our economy. The reason Republicans led on immigration for so long is that it is such a strong economic selling point, for so many individuals. When I get into the weeds and talk about, my plan for comprehensive immigration reform, it's remarkable how many people are sort of like, that really makes a lot of sense, Republicans and Democrats. And I was like, and if you want to learn more about that, that is almost point by point on the George W. Bush Policy Institute webpage for comprehensive immigration reform. It just makes more sense, as we approach an increasingly globalized economy, to have more employment visas available for individuals, not less, brings us into this, space of a 21st century economy, to have a functional and robust asylum system, that can, do background checks, process individuals who are truly here, seeking asylum, and allow them refuge, in the United States, instead of years long backlogs of individuals in jail, which, expensive and inhumane, and just doesn't meet any purpose whatsoever. So it's interesting. I approach the process of lawmaking the same I would as a lawyer, which is just a very common sense approach. We start with the facts and we start with the law. And anytime you are approaching a legal issue, you want to make sure that you understand the reality of the ground that you're playing on. And I think that helps you from a negotiating standpoint. It helps you from a legal standpoint when you're building your legal case. And I think that, one of the things that I always do, whether I'm campaigning or the way that I would approach, tackling something as seemingly unapproachable as comprehensive immigration reform, is, starting from a place of agreement and asking questions instead of making assumptions. Where are the stumbling blocks for individuals and how can we eliminate them?
Yeah.
If individuals are starting with a place of fear over unregulated borders, let's talk about border security first.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be afraid to talk about that, but there are ways, other than building a wall, which is ineffective and, expensive and an environmental atrocity. Let's talk about, high-tech ways to, secure our borders and patrol our borders. Let's talk about, increasing the number of immigration judges that we have to review these asylum claims. Let's talk about collaboration with sending countries, for how we can address the need at the place of origin. And I think that there is just so much that we would find a place of agreement on if we were really willing, to address those issues. But, I think on the right, it's such an effective tool, that individuals are willing to not willing to walk away from the salient talking point will start here into the heart
and
of
it has been for a long time, right? It's not only the way immigrants have been approached with the Trump administration, which was among the worst that American history has done.
But, you're absolutely. I mean,
go back through our history, and we've been really bad at this for a long time. Sometimes you have to practice being bad at things, and this country practiced being bad at something that we should have been good at for a very, very long time. I'm just going to rant for one more second on this. What people in your area will say a lot, because you live in one of the places where people talk about where their parents came from. You have it on your own website. Like, you just live in an area where people are like, my grandparents came from the Netherlands. My grandparents. Yeah. It's just one of those, I don't know, people don't move or they stay connected to those narratives. And people always say things like, well, why don't current immigrants just come the way my grandparents did? Yeah. And I ask that same question. Why can't immigrants come the way your grandparents did? Because we changed the rules. Yeah, because we changed the rules. That we said,
you mean just showing up on a boat and
why can't they just show up and do like? And this is one of the things that's just hard for people to wrap their heads around, because they think that people have changed their behavior in trying to come to this country as immigrants. But what's really happened is we've changed the rules about how we're going to treat people. And as we like to say, if we made the laws, we can change them. And this seems like it's something that your particular expertise would be very helpful in Congress, especially because there's a lot of lawmakers who we talk to who this just isn't their thing, right? The law and the ruling, leading a political movement in a government is very complicated, as you know, and people don't know everything. They can't possibly know everything. So you need people with certain expertise to be able to lend that credibility on certain issues.
Yeah.
There really is only, about one or two other lawmakers right now in Congress that have immigration as a foundational, practical piece. And so,
Mm.
when we're talking about things like, okay, what does comprehensive immigration reform look like? What would it actually look like to, provide pathway to certain individuals, but not for others? The whatever issue we're facing at the border, to have an individual that has spent the better part of 2 decades working in this system is just it's an invaluable experience that we need in Congress right now.
Yeah. Hillary, talk a little bit about your reaction to the what seems like the impending Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Yeah. This is a huge turning point in our country. I think that individuals have not fully grasped yet what this could potentially mean. I think as an attorney, I am, I'm heartbroken over what this means for the integrity of our courts, what this means for the trust and the promises that certain justices made when they were on the stand and promised fidelity to standing precedent, and what we here as individuals may be facing. Here in Michigan, this is especially salient, where we have a trigger law on the books, and if Roe versus Wade is overturned, abortion would immediately become a felony. There are individuals in our state who are looking, to do something about that. But, I think the thing that is lost, this is another area, the conversation on choice is another area in which, the facts and the reality are so lost to rhetoric. Here in Michigan, when we recently debated some reforms to this law in anticipation of, what we could possibly be seeing coming down the pike in the Supreme Court, we heard testimony from so many individuals for whom, having a life-saving abortion procedure allowed them to continue to parent their children, allowed them to keep their own lives, and when we're talking about overturning Roe or national abortion.
Well, it looks like Hillary popped off there for a quick second, but I'm sure we'll get her back. I'm sure it'll be a good conversation unless somebody pulled the plug, as it seems like right there.
Apparently, there's some
great candidate.
Oh, seriously. Doug, I feel like I say this every time we have a candidate on and have a conversation with them. I am just so impressed with the quality of people running for office. Yeah. And, frankly, I think there's too many lawyers in Congress, just in general,
Yeah.
I feel like we need more doctors and nurses and teachers and, a whole bunch of different, variety of experiences. But if we have to have another lawyer in Congress, boy, Hillary's the type of lawyer we need. Someone with such expertise and compassion and wisdom. It's just clear that she's got, exactly the type of temperament and approach that boy, we just need so much more of in DC.
And the thing you realize when you talk to people who are lawyers is that, a law school degree is it's a generic degree to give someone the ability to practice law, right? Obviously. Mm-hmm. But then from there, what kind of law you practice makes an enormous difference, right? If you're the kind of attorney or the kind of work that you do. Hillary, we're just singing your praises here and saying that there are so many different kinds of, there are so many different kinds of attorneys and lawyers and people that practice law in so many different ways, and that some see themselves in the helping professions as lawyers. Some see themselves, in other professions as lawyers. But we were just sort of bragging about that. Can you give us a little update on where things sit on your race? what big dates are coming up? How can people get engaged? What can they do to participate with you and what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So things are going great. We are, as I said, we are so excited. This is a district that is a Biden +9 now. It is absolutely a seat that, sorry about that, that we need to win, that we can win. Sorry,
Somebody
wants to call in and help on the campaign.
Yeah, well, good. Well, let's get them on the call. Let's see what this is all about. Throw them on speakerphone.
Okay.
I mean, obviously your life is like a lot of ours where like 5 different devices are all sort of linked together and a phone call comes and you would think that you were at a carnival in my house when the phone rings. It's
all the
iPads and computers and phones. Oh my goodness. I can't figure out which one to shut off.
Right.
So the campaign's going well. It's a district that's
going great. Campaign is going great, and we're going to be launching our canvassing and our field program in June. We'll have a lot of opportunities for folks even to get involved, help make phone calls, write postcards, even if you're not here in the district, but if you want to come out even this summer and the fall, help us knock doors and get folks out to the polls. We'll take it. We have a major university here in the district that the youth vote is just going to be so key for us. So if you're a young person or have a young person in your life who might be interested in getting involved as well, feel free to reach out to the campaign. You can sign up for volunteer opportunities or donate your time, talent, or treasure at HillaryScholten.com. That's HILLARYSCHOLTEN.com. And we're happy to take all manner of volunteers and assistance. So,
well, count us in the in the crowd. We want to be part of all that.
One of the ways that people can get to your website is by, certainly they can go there directly, but they could also go to Vote Common Good and check out the new Candidates for Common Good page that is there. And Hillary, your picture's on there and somebody can click on your name and get to your website. Tell us about why you wanted to be a part of this effort as we ask candidates to consider the common good when it comes to how they govern and how they'll lead. Why was it important for you to be, one of these candidates with 20 others so far in this first round of candidates for common good?
Yeah, it's just so essential right now as we see the very foundations of our democracy under attack every single day, that, like-minded individuals, candidates and elected officials who are in this for the common good, band together. I was looking at the picture of the candidates and folks that you have up there. What an honor to be included among those individuals. These are truly our future shapers. That is what motivated me. Politics is often just on both sides is so overrun with corruption, big money, special interests, and finding those individuals for whom investing in and promoting the common good is so important, that we band together, get our message out, and help individuals know that you're not alone. There are individuals like us, candidates like us, elected officials like us out there who are ready to make change and affect the common good in public life.
Well, we're awfully excited about this and feel like that your win is going to make a big difference. We hope that it makes a big difference in control of Congress. And we have this system in the United States where the political party that has more than 50% of the House of Representatives aligned with them sets the agenda, which means that one of the two political parties is not in control of setting the agenda. That tends to move since 1992, 94. That has been moving back and forth. It used to be settled, for 40 years that Democrats owned the House of Representatives, and that was sort of that.
Yeah.
A lot of things have changed since then. Now it's moving. There's a possibility that you, when you win, that that the Democratic Party won't be in control of the House of Representatives. Now, I say that as if it's a terrible jinx on the world, and I don't want that to happen. I think Republicans have lost the right to govern in this country for a period of time, and they need to sit it out. But that might not be the case. They might actually have control. How does that fit into your calculus? Because, one side is your lawmaker. The other side is you do constituency services, which is an important part of being a representative for the House of Representatives, that you actually represent the people in your district to Congress separately from setting laws and setting the agenda and the things that the political party system allows the House of Representatives to do. Do you have any thoughts about what that part of the job is going to be and how you're thinking about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think as a social worker, I am ready to bring my constituent services A game to the people of West Michigan. From navigating, complex federal benefits, student loan labyrinths, helping folks understand how they can interact with their federal government is going to be key. Immigration services is another major key player. I know as an attorney, we interface with our elected officials all the time on complicated cases. And so having an individual who, even if we're not in a position to get votes and pass legislation that I fully agree with, the constituent services side of things is going to be essential. And to have someone who is really in a position to put the interests of constituents who have lived their life on the margins of society first and foremost, front and center in the district, I think is going to make a real difference to people.
Yeah.
And I also think there's, an important role to play in, being a voice in opposition. Even if you are not going to get the vote you want, going to get the policy exactly the way you want. Far too many individuals are, just of the mind of, I'm going to take my ball and go home. But that's not what the people of West Michigan are electing me to do. I'm going to stay at the table. I'm going to have the conversations, and we're going to do everything that we can to influence the legislation that's in the best interest of West Michiganders, even if, it's not the party in control.
Yeah. Hillary, we got to get you to DC. We also have to get you to your next meeting. It's we've held you over a little bit, and I know that you've got a busy schedule, and your campaign team is pinging us saying, "Hey, we got to get going." So
I like that time.
Which fantastic. And I
I'll have to come back.
I thought we were wrapping up, and then Doug launched into a whole nother big conversation. So
yeah, just one more thing. Can we talk a little bit of, no, we'll let you go. We'll let you go.
Hillary, thank you so much. We're rooting for you. I want to encourage everybody to check out your website and to volunteer and to donate. And we are so glad to have you on the podcast and so glad to have you as a candidate for common good.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for all the good work you guys do.
Right, I'm with Hillary. All right. Thank you.
Right.
Okay. I waited on that joke for 38 minutes.
Fantastic.
Boy,
isn't she great?
She's going to be the congresswoman from Michigan's 3rd district. That's going to happen.
Yep.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. I feel really, really good. She ran in 2020. I don't know if people understand when you're a regular person running for office. I mean, and everybody's a regular person, right? But when you're not, when you don't,
somehow
exactly. When you don't come up through the political apparatus, and you don't, and you're just like been doing something. You've been doing something else in your life, and feel some compulsion to run for office, and you do it. The first time you do it, it feels like you're putting the train together while you're going down the tracks. It just, you don't know what you don't know. It is so difficult, so hard. You don't know who to trust, who to listen to. There's this whole political industrial complex of consultants who want to charge you thousands of dollars a month to give you advice. It's just so complicated.
When I was a kid, I was a bigger person than the other kids.
Yeah.
And that had a lot of effect when you play sports. So I remember being in baseball, like in Little League, and I think they made me play up an age group because the uniforms fit to be up an age group. And I wasn't as good of a baseball player as these kids were. And I remember getting into the batter's box, you know, in the one grade up. So I'm if I was like, should have been not in the 8-year-olds or 9-year-olds, and I was playing with the 10, 11-year-olds. And these pitches were coming so fast. It was just, and everything seemed like a blur. Everyone was bigger, faster. Everything just moved at such a pace. That's what it can feel like running for office when you haven't been in it before, right? Yep. You get your sea legs after a while, and all of a sudden you're like, no, that's okay. A guy can throw a pitch at 67 miles an hour, you know, in Little League. I can now see that. I can hit. I'm not freaked out by it and how just much movement and activity there is. Politics is like that, and that keeps a lot of people out. So a lot of people can't build the apparatus at first. And then there's a lot of people monkeying around inside your campaigns if they think you have a chance to win. And, you know, fortunately, Hillary is a very capable person that can do a lot of things because that's what a candidate needs. The other thing people don't always realize, and I think this is helpful for us to give people the inside scoop on this, is how small a congressional campaign is. That it's much more like a family garage sale than it is a small business. You're not even a small, like you are certainly not Walmart, or you're certainly not Target, you know, Walmart, your home, Target, my home. You're not these big corporations when you're running for office. People think that it's that way. You know, they're like all the big money and and they just think all this stuff is kind of run by power brokers. It's closer to somebody just having a food truck, and it's not even a food truck. It's really someone running a garage sale where they're asking their friends, and can I borrow this thing? And then it starts to pick up pace and kind of takes off. And so somebody has to have the skill set to manage grassroots, starting something, talking to your friends, not even knowing who to go to, trying to figure out the rules and the laws and how do you set up bank account, all of that skill set. And then you have to scale up to the next level, and then to the next. And that capacity to move from one stage to the other, most people don't have it. And this is why we end up with certain people in elected office. And you think, why are these people the ones that are there? Well, the system is just very brutal. And it's expensive and all the rest. So, you know, you have to be able to talk to people like us who are on your side. You've got constituents that are telling you that you're the spawn of the evil one, and you've got donor calls to be making all the time and trying to convince people to make donations. It's a really hard job to run for office. And anyone who's willing to do it, I'll tell you, there is no personal benefit that is worth that. If all you wanted was personal benefit, like you just wanted to, I don't know, be rich or something.
There's easier ways.
If you're going to put all that work into something, you know, go on to smallbusinessforsale.com and buy a small business and put that kind of time and energy into it, and you'll be off and running and you'll be quite successful. People who do this, and this is frankly true on all sides of the political spectrum. People who choose to run for office do it for reasons that are often hard for others to understand what it is. And we like the candidates for whom the common good is the thing that really perpetuates them and drives them, which is why this Candidates for the Common Good. I just did it. Sorry, Candidates for Common Good. I mean, we just have to just stop the. That should be our campaign. It's not vote the common good. It's not candidates for the common good. It's like saying the God. Can I just rant about this the thing for this preposition? Because you know, like you don't refer to certain entities, parents, your wife, your God as the, right? So you don't say, this is the wife. I mean, people do it in sort of like bar lingo up here in the Midwest. Oh, I got to go home and talk to the wife, you know, but you don't usually say the wife. You don't say the God, because that acts as if it's a singular, a single separate subject. common good is not a thing. Common good is an approach to the world. And it's really a big deal that there's not one common good. So when people ask us like, well, what do you all mean by the common good? I was like, well, I mean not the common good, not the definitive common good, but it's an approach, because if a lawmaker doesn't have the common good as their criterion, then they're using something else. And we're trying to, encourage people to make it common goodery.
Yeah, I think that's important. That's a great thing to say, because, when we have these candidates for common good, we're not asking them to ascribe to a set of policy positions. We're like, that's not what Vote Common Good is about. We're not looking for candidates or wanting to recognize candidates who, check the boxes in a certain number of policy positions, which is often how this kind of thing works. Yep. What we're doing instead is talking about a shared value. It's not even a shared set of values. It's a shared value. Yes. And that value is the driving force, the motivating factor of the common good being the thing that animates candidates and they'll lead in that. And so in this, group of 21 initial candidates that are candidates for common good, there's a lot of, diversity in approach and opinion. They're not all gonna, cross their T's and dot their I's in the exact same places. There's some that are going to be super progressive and some that are going to be more moderate. Yep. There's some that are going to be comfortable in the Bernie wing of the Democratic Party and some that are more comfortable in the Biden wing of the Democratic. This isn't about agreement to a set of policies. It's much more about a frame of reference and a frame of mind and a way of moving in the world. Doug, also as a part of this, we asked these candidates to take the Love and Politics pledge. That's something that has been around. You and I had a fun experience asking another politician to take the Love and Politics pledge, and she refused. Talk a little bit about the Love and Politics pledge and what that is and how that has come about in our work at Vote Common Good.
Yeah, back in 2018, we started asking the question, could love become a driving political agenda? Could it be the thing that you reference when you think about your act as a politician? And because then the current president, Donald Trump, was behaving in such ways that everyone agreed was inconsistent with an attitude and a temperament of love. Yeah. Some people thought that was disqualifying. Some people thought that was just fine. Some people thought love should have nothing to do with it. They sort of took the what's love got to do with it vibe. We thought that if love should be the motivating force for human life, which I think it is. I think, if you were to ask me my religious perspective on a theological perspective, I would say I'm a lovist, right? Some people are a Calvinist or Arminianist. Some people are a Lutheran. I'm a lovist. I think love should be the thing that drives. The definition of love is unfindable, right? You can't define love, but you know it when you see it. So there's all these descriptions in different traditions. In the Christian tradition, it has one, and other religions, they have their own descriptional characterizations of love. In humanism, they have it. In people that don't even organize around religion at all, there's a set of practices that dictate how someone should love. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not self-serving. Like the kinds of things that you really want out of all of us and that we want from ourselves. So we've said, could you make love the governing philosophy for how you're going to behave as a politician? And then will you call other politicians to that same standard. The reason that second part, will you yourself take a commitment to love as your driving force and make a demand on others in your same industry to do the same? That's what's crucially important.
Yeah.
This notion that I think is essential to human life, which is that we love one another. There's a one anotherness in that. And you should, to borrow from the Christian tradition's language, you should spur one another on to love and good deeds, right? You're kind of in this thing together. And politicians are notorious, like people in other leadership roles in our society, to wanting to say like, well, I wouldn't say it that way, but it's not my business if they do it that way. Like, you know, a lot of the professional industries, there's actually a code of conduct in the societies of professional, like if you're going to be an architect, if you're an engineer, we obviously know this as a doctor, if you're a public service, a police officer or something, you take on this oath that of a way of conduct. Yep. And some reason in politics, we act as if people shouldn't have an ethical way of conduct. So we thought, well, maybe you just let love be the thing. And then will you support others when they do? And will you call people out when they don't? So in other words, will you call them out of when they don't behave in a way in their professional capacity in a way that's loving? And will you call them in to being that person who loves in that way? So that's the Love and Politics Pledge. It's rooted for our audience in the phrasing of the 13th chapter of the book of Corinthians in the New Testament. Now it sounds like we're at a wedding because it's a passage from 1 Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians 1:3 that has this little description of love, of which is not, I know that for some people, they're like, well, now you're using the Bible and all the rest of this. That list that's in 1 Corinthians 13, that's not unique to Christianity. In fact, right. The Apostle Paul, the writer of the book of 1 Corinthians, and including chapter 13, was borrowing a set of known ways of love. So it's calling people to this common experience of love, not calling people to a unique experience of love. Yep. The big debate in Christianity, big argument is, does the Christian tradition call people to something separate and specific that's only in the Christian tradition, as if it's one true group that has a secret that none of the rest know about? That's one version. Or the other is, does Christianity call people to live into this common experience of goodness and love and faith and hope? And I think that's the better way to understand what's going on in the Christian tradition. So this is calling people to all that. So that's the Love and Politics Pledge. We currently only have Love and Politics Pledge for people running for office, but we're working on a version for voters too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's exciting, and to think,
really keep your eye out for that.
Yeah,
it's a great Christmas gift.
Yeah, there are 21 candidates who have said, "I'm in." Like, I will use the common good as my governing criteria. I commit to the Love and Politics Pledge, and it's really exciting. Can I just give a rundown real quick of who these folks are,
please.
and then people can go to votecommongood.com and get to the page that has everybody. You can read about why they became a candidate for Common Good, and you can click on their names to go to their website to learn more about them, support them, all those things. Joseph Alfonso is running for Congress in Michigan in the district bordering Hillary Scholten's, and is in the Holland area. Dr. Annie Andrews, who's been a guest on this podcast in South Carolina. Great. Oh, man. Pastor Eric Butler, who is running in Chicago in Illinois 1. And just would make a fantastic congressman. Jay Chen, who's running in California. Keith Davenport, who's running for the state legislature in Kansas, We have a
Boy, I
couple
was
of
hoping that was going to be in Iowa. I was just really
yeah,
hoping he was in Davenport.
yeah. Keith's a great guy. We should have a conversation with
Yeah,
him
we
on the
should.
podcast sometime soon. Uh,
I'm going to be on
Chris,
my couch when we do. I'll tell you that.
yeah, Chris.
Do you understand that joke? Do you understand the couch Davenport joke? Do you know that Davenport is a phrase for couches? My children don't know that that's a phrase. When I refer to it often as the Davenport,
Yeah.
they just say, look at me like, why do you even say that? No one calls it a Davenport.
Yeah. Chris DeLuzio, who's running in the Pittsburgh area to replace Connor Lamb, who's running for the U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania. Chris has been a guest on the podcast. Marcus Flowers, who's running against Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia. And is just fantastic. He's been a guest on the podcast. Reverend Wendy Hamilton, who's running in D.C. to be the delegate at large for the District of Columbia, and Wendy has been a guest on the podcast. Chris Jones, who I desperately want to be my governor here in Arkansas, running against Sarah Huckabee Sanders to be governor of Arkansas, has been a guest on the podcast. Kelly Kraut, who's running for lieutenant governor of Arkansas, also been a guest on the podcast. She had an amazing TikTok video yesterday. For those of you that like
was
that
she
kind
singing?
of thing,
was she singing in the TikTok video?
She was, yes.
See, I'm telling you, people keep saying to me, no, you don't have to sing on TikTok videos. And then I'm like, well, what's like a great TikTok video you've seen? Then they say one, and the person's singing in it. So
yeah, if that's the case, Doug, I'm going to advise that maybe you steer clear.
Or they lip sync, right? Isn't that the big thing? Isn't that really what you're doing? I don't know.
Yeah, but Kelly was singing in this TikTok video yesterday.
Well, great. That's what makes a great TikTok video.
Yeah, Congressman Ted Lieu from California. He's just fantastic.
The political godfather of Vote Common Good. There would be no Vote Common Good without Ted Lieu. I mean, there's no way you get there. Not a godfather, the great grandfather, the one that you track back and like, well, a lot of decisions could have been made, for us to be here, but if it wasn't for great grandpappy, well, we wouldn't be here. Well, that's Ted Lieu in the Vote Common Good world.
Yep. Randy McCallum, who's running for Congress in Missouri, and a candidate I'm personally pretty excited about and look forward to having a conversation with her. Tom Nelson, who's running for the United States Senate in Wisconsin, who's been a guest on the podcast.
A live speaker at our Common Good immigration event there just outside of Madison, Wisconsin. An in-person candidate with Vote Common Good.
Yep. Lisa Parks, who's running for the state Senate in Arkansas. Desperately want Lisa to be my state senator. Can you tell that
turning into the Robb Ryerse's personal benefit in Arkansas club?
Well, clearly I'm kind of connected to the people that are running in my state.
Arkansas.
Yep. Congresswoman Katie Porter, who's just the best, the queen,
the best, the auntie of the Vote Common Good effort.
Just the best. Tim Ryan.
The other night she was on Lawrence O'Donnell's show. The night that the announcement was made about the Supreme Court leaked documents about the Roe versus Wade decision, and she was irritated and was having to talk about it. And she said, what this has impact for is families like ours where the mom is home making pesto pasta and you're having to deal with all the rest of this. Like, she's just so great. She has the right instincts to say things like, what I'm talking about is single moms like me who are making pesto pasta, and I shouldn't have to worry that the Supreme Court is going to take 50-year established rights away from us. Yeah. Like, her intuition to include pesto pasta in it and not just say, I'm home making dinner, which is what a lot of people would have said. She's like, no. I'm going to tell them what I'm making. And then people are like, oh, I really love pesto. No one doesn't like pesto pasta that I've ever met. And so when she says that, people are like, oh, that's great. Have you had pesto pasta, Rob? Are you a pesto pasta?
I have. I'm not a huge Italian food fan, but yeah, I get it. I might be the only person in America who doesn't like Italian food.
Meaning, like, you don't like noodles?
Yeah, just the combination. I'm not a spaghetti guy. I'm not a lasagna guy.
macaroni and cheese. I mean, I know your daughter's big into macaroni and cheese because we've had this conversation that she thought it was epic that someone could make a box of macaroni and cheese and eat it themselves.
It's true.
Well, I'm telling you, have some good pesto pasta. Let's ask Katie Porter for a recipe. We should ping her on that.
Yeah, I'll shoot her an email later and ask her. So
we should find that. Hang on a second. We should find that little clip where she's on Lauren. So I mean, this might be more interesting to talk about than a list of candidates, but we should find that little clip where she's on there and then tweet her and say, "Hey, we're really interested in your pesto pasta recipe," and turn her in and start a whole pesto pasta meme about all this.
Tim Ryan, who is a congressman from Ohio, who is the Democratic nominee for the United States Senate, won his primary last week. He is a candidate for Common Good and going up against J.D. Vance, Trump-endorsed candidate in Ohio, big race in Ohio.
And I'll tell you, I have not wanted to care about Ohio since, 2004, just because it used to be the bellwether state and you had to win in Ohio and all the rest of this. But man, J.D. Vance should not be a senator in the United States Senate.
That's right.
And I don't know what we're going to do about this. I really want Tim Ryan to win for Tim Ryan's sake, but also it's one of these candidates that also, because that other candidate should not be the person representing the state of Ohio in the United States Senate.
Yep, absolutely.
J.D. Vance has just chosen to behave in ways that are just unacceptable.
Yep. Yeah, I had a conversation yesterday with one of the members of Tim Ryan's campaign team, and I'm feeling good about that race, and like you, I'm committed to we need to do what we can there in Ohio.
Yeah.
Patrick Schmidt, who is running for Congress in Kansas. Remember him? He's the Naval Intelligence Officer. He's been a guest on the podcast. Naval Intelligence Officer who watched the insurrection from his office window and said, "I got to move home and run for Congress." And just a fantastic guy. Hillary Scholten, who, just blew us away on the podcast today, running in Michigan. Spencer Toder, who is running for the United States Senate in Missouri. Spencer's a super interesting guy. We haven't had him on the podcast yet, have we? We need to get him on with him, right? Yeah, we need to get Spencer on the podcast. He's great. Nan Whaley, who is the mayor of Dayton and now the gubernatorial nominee for the Democratic Party in Ohio. She won her primary on Tuesday. First time that a major party in Ohio has had two women at the top of the ticket. Nan Whaley and her lieutenant governor running together to lead the state of Ohio. And man, Nan is great. I've been working with her scheduler to get her on the podcast. Things have been busy. She just had her primary a week ago, and so she's great. And then Marsha Williams, who's running for Congress in Illinois, suburbs of Chicago. So this is an amazing list of folks. Those that Shannon's asking if we could drop the list of names in the chat. I would say go to votecommongood.com and you'll see it featured there on the homepage of our website. You can see the list. You can read a little bit of a description of each of these folks, learn more about them, head over to their websites, donate, volunteer for them. And listen, if you're running for office, if you know somebody who's running for office, this is something that is open to any candidate for office who's willing to use the common good as their voting criteria and their governing criteria. So, if you'd like somebody to be on this list, that that maybe they're running for school board in your local area, or they're running for, I don't know, like Jesse Ventura running for president in 2024.
And we want this to be an ever-growing list, right?
Yep.
So this is just the start. Launching today, these are the first 21 that have said yes. Yep. And we expect that this is going to become, an uncountably long list of people. So if you have candidates, I saw one in the chat here. I think Kay Ryan says, have we talked with Summer Lee out of Pennsylvania? So yeah, we'll take a look at all this and send them our way. This is sort of it's not really an endorsement because organizations like ours don't do endorsements. That's
it's a recognition.
Other thing. Yeah. This is hey, we're glad to be in on this thing together. And we want that to be the case. You're a voter for common good. We want these to be candidates for common good.
Yep.
And,
we are not endorsing these candidates. We're asking these candidates to endorse the common good. And that's what they've done. And so we're excited to recognize that and to put a spotlight on that. So follow our social media. We're going to be, highlighting these folks over the next several days. And it's we're excited about this opportunity to try to make a difference for good.
Yep. Hey, thanks all for being part of this. If you're not already over on our YouTube channel on YouTube, this whole conversation, our 3 times a week conversation, which now we're moving to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, going to be on YouTube starting in June as the place where you find it. If you're currently on Twitch or Twitter or Facebook, get over there, subscribe. And we're moving our video life to be over on Facebook, and then we'll put links over on YouTube, and then we'll put links on Facebook and Twitter and the other places. Also subscribe when you're over there. It really does help us. There's a thing you have to do with the algorithm. There's just there's a actual code that you have to follow in the code, and hitting a certain number of views, a certain number of subscribers, certain number of watch hours. These are all things that we have to get to, and we're going to build our presence over there. So find us over there on the YouTubes, and we'll be back tomorrow. We're talking about faith. Dan, who's our guest tomorrow?
We've got Moms Demand Action and Everytown gun rights, like anti-gun violence activist and pastor. So we're going to talk about how we reduce gun violence in America.
That seems like a really great conversation. So that's going to be tomorrow, and then we'll also see you on Thursday. And keep an eye out for some other more produced YouTube-like videos that we're getting into. We're going to take that pretty seriously around here. All right, Rob, anything else? Anything else, Dan, that we need to talk about on the political front today?
I just teased it a little bit, Doug. Your former governor said on Twitter that big announcement is coming. Any guesses at what Jesse Ventura is going to do? Just in a sentence. Is Jesse Ventura running for president, Doug?
I don't know. I think Jesse Ventura rescinded his U.S. citizenship and moved to Mexico. So I do think that's true. So I'm not sure if he's unrescinded his citizenship and now can run. Look, Jesse Ventura.
Maybe it's a return to wrestling. Maybe that's what he's teasing.
Yeah.
I think the bigger question is, why are you following Jesse Ventura on Twitter? Second question, why Twitter? But
okay,
sort of,
that's all.
Okay. All right, Jesse Ventura. Oh, the body, Jesse the Body. But the nice thing about a guy like Jesse the Body, former media star, movie star, professional wrestler, was the mayor of Brooklyn Center, this town here in just outside of Minneapolis, and then ran for governor. And it's just a good reminder that, the politics is the biggest circle we have in our society. It's the thing that everyone is included in. Everyone has political effect and implication. So everyone should get to run, even Jesse Ventura. And he's a libertarian. So I just, it's my own. But again,
everyone should be able to run. You don't have to vote for everyone, though.
Yeah, you don't have to vote for everyone. And you don't have to follow everybody on Twitter. And I'm looking at my shirt. Look at this. What is this?
I'm like, are you sweating? Did you spill something?
I think it's a stain.
I have been
just downright embarrassing.
Yeah, I have been sweating like a hog throughout this entire podcast.
Oh, really?
So I'm gonna need to get off and go try to
Take a shower.
convince my wife.
Yeah, sneak
Go
over
try to
and turn on
convince
the
my wife to
AC.
turn on the air conditioner.
Awesome. Well, say, hey, in Arkansas, you can't have the air conditioner on before May 1st. It's like time zones, but it moves north to south for air conditioners. That should be a new category. Hey, we live in this this air conditioning zone.
Yep.
We can have it on when we need it. All right, that's good enough.
It's great. We'll see everybody tomorrow.
All right, everybody. See you. Bye.